Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's EarthEcho's STEMExplore virtual career connection featuring Dr. Morgan Martin, who specializes in dolphin echolocation and communication. My name is Casey and I'm a programs manager here at EarthEcho. Now, we here at EarthEcho International are part of a nonprofit global foundation organization founded on the belief that youth have the power to change our planet. Now, our programs reach over more than 2 million people in 146 countries, and we provide original content, immersive experiences, and trusted resources to empower young people to become leaders and problem solvers in their communities and all around the world. And we hope that with all of our current status right now, that families are taking so much advantage of all the resources we have at earthecho.org. Now, today we're joined by one of EarthEcho's exceptional youth leaders, Akila, and she's going to help me moderate today's live event. Now, Akila is a senior at Basis Phoenix in Phoenix, Arizona, and she's very passionate about art and believes one of the most effective ways young people can get involved in their community and begin discussions is through art. So we're so excited to have Akila here with us today. So Akila, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Casey. So we are so excited to have students from all over the globe joining us, learning about sustainable and exciting careers in science, technology, math, and engineering. And this live event is part of STEMExplore, which is EarthEcho's program that brings inspiration to life by telling the stories of dynamic female professionals in STEM careers during live virtual career connections. And this is proudly sponsored by Raytheon Technologies. Thank you so much for your support of women in STEM. And also, just a reminder that you can send in questions via chat and we will break throughout today's presentation to answer your questions. Feel free to ask some fun questions too during this crazy time. It's important to keep things light. So feel free to start typing questions in the chat space as they arise, and we'll be sure to answer those questions as we go along. And let me introduce Morgan and welcome her today. So this is Dr. Morgan Martin. Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
Okay, so let me briefly introduce her. So Dr. Morgan Martin is a visiting scientist at the University of Southern Denmark. She has an MSc in marine science from the University of San Diego, California, and a BSc in biology from the University of New Orleans, Louisiana. Morgan recently finished her PhD in zoology at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. From 2015 to 2019, she was based in Namibia, Southern Africa, conducting her PhD research on the underwater acoustics of two species of wild African dolphins, heave-side dolphins and dusky dolphins. She specializes in using underwater acoustics to estimate cetacean abundance and to study animal behavior. All super cool stuff. So Morgan, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Hey, yes, thank you all for having me. I am a marine mammal scientist, and particularly in the field of cetaceans, which is the word that scientists use to group together all species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises. So I primarily focus on underwater acoustics, which means that I study how sound travels underwater, especially sounds that cetaceans make. And the majority of cetaceans can echolocate. Just like bats, they produce a form of sonar, which they use to navigate and orient themselves underwater. They also use it for hunting in order to catch fish and other prey species. And as you may know, cetaceans are considered highly intelligent species, and a lot of them are pretty social animals. They like to hang out with one another, especially dolphins. And because of that, that means that they communicate a lot. They're very, very vocal animals. And so that's one reason that you can study acoustics to better understand dolphin behavior. And so one of the things that I do is I study their biosonar underwater, and I also study their communication sounds to be able to figure out different ways that they are using their vocabulary, which we call a repertoire, and also how their communication sounds differ from species to species. So underwater acoustics is a booming field right now. There are a lot of projects studying how underwater acoustics can be harmful to marine mammals, especially in the form of noise pollution. We have a lot of noise pollution going on in our oceans right now, particularly from shipping noise, from seismic activity, people searching for oil and gas under the ocean seafloor. also from Navy sonar activities, and you know it. So there's a lot of harmful effects that can happen just from noise itself being produced underwater, which is actually a form of pollution. So that's one way that acoustics is actually being used a lot to work with marine mammals at the moment. And another way, one of the ways that I use in particular, using acoustics with cetaceans, is to actually help estimate their abundance in an area, which is the same thing as a population estimate. So you may have heard someone say, hey, there's 2,000 blue whales left in the world, or a random statistic, something like that. How do people actually come up with that number 2,000? You know, how do they know? And there's actually a statistical way that you can count cetaceans at sea. And one of those ways uses acoustics underwater. And by doing that, you can record animals passing through an area, and in a given area, you can actually determine what species are there, what those animals are doing based off of the sounds that they're producing. We can tell, are they using that area for hunting? Are they just using it to pass through for traveling? Maybe they're resting, maybe they're socializing in that area. So that gives us a bigger picture of what they're using that specific habitat for, all based on underwater acoustics, which is pretty cool. So another thing that I've actually recently gotten into is using acoustics combined with drones to pair them together to study animal behavior with cetaceans. And drones have actually proved to be extremely useful for collecting data on cetaceans, because they can be flown in the air over cetaceans and dolphin groups and other animals that are swimming in the ocean, and you actually don't need the boat to be anywhere nearby. So you have the ability to record these animals going about their daily behavior undisturbed by a human presence. And at the same time, we've started recording them underwater in the exact same area. So not only do we get this beautiful image of the animals from the air, we also get the recordings of what they're vocalizing underwater. And we can piece together all the different sounds that they use for different behaviors and build their vocal repertoire or their vocabulary. So we have a quick video to show you of some drone footage and the acoustic work I've recently done. I've been working down in Patagonia. Go ahead. And it's in southern Argentina. And these are commerson's dolphins, and they are one of the smallest species of dolphins in the world. They get up to about 100 pounds. They're itty bitty. They're black and white. And this is actually the largest aggregation or group of commerson's dolphins that's ever been recorded. And we got this on Christmas Eve this year, so Merry Christmas. And we have hydrophones, which are underwater acoustic recorders hung over the front of the boat. And then the drone is taking the video footage that you see. And we've paired it with the sounds underwater. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get it.
And Morgan, I'm just going to pop in here. I'm trying to get this video to play, but we are experiencing some technical issues. So if you would just want to go ahead and keep talking, I'm going to continue to try and reload this to see if we can get this video up.
Sure. Okay, no problem. So basically the sounds of commerson's dolphins, the ones that I've recently been studying down in southern Argentina, these are one of the species of dolphins that produce extremely ultrasonic clicks. Ultrasonic just means humans can't hear it. So the frequency range is too high for people to hear. So commersons actually start producing echolocation clicks, which is the sound they use as their sonar, around 120 kilohertz. And humans only can hear up to about 20 kilohertz. So that's 6 times higher than we can hear, which is pretty cool. And we can go in and show you a slide of what their echolocation clicks look like.
Hold tight 1 second. I'm just trying to reload everything.
No worries. I can keep talking to you about it. So basically, one of the things that I was trying to do was combine these drone images with the acoustic recordings done in Patagonia. And we were able to get incredibly good footage of these animals. They were actually quite not shy, which I was expecting them to be shy because they're so small. But we ended up getting really, really nice, beautiful recordings of them. So this is just an image of what we call a spectrogram. It's a tool that people who study acoustics use. It's got the frequency on your vertical axis or your y-axis, and then it has time in seconds on your x-axis or your horizontal axis. And all of those little vertical yellow bars, each one of those is a dolphin echolocation click. And then on the bottom right corner, you can see I put in 20 kilohertz. That would be the cutoff of where humans can hear. So these dolphins start talking way, way, way above what we're able to hear as humans. So it's pretty amazing all the different sounds that are going on underwater if you just think about it. They're extremely good at using their sonar, and they also produce sounds in the same frequency range for when they communicate as well. So I was looking into all the different types of sounds I could find for convergence dolphins. And let's see.
And I just want to jump in again. Folks out there, please be patient. There are a lot of people online. We probably should get these videos up online as fast as I can. And let's see, just keep on going, Morgan. And if maybe we'll
coast while we were on the beach that day. And I came home ecstatic, and I told my mom and dad, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to work with dolphins. I want to study them. I want to be a marine biologist. And at 7 years old, I'm pretty sure that they laughed at me and said, okay, you know, and here I am today. So if you're passionate about a career, you know, there's no harm in sticking with it. And even if people, you know, think you're just crazy, if you love something, that's just an example to show, you know, go for it. I'm incredibly happy with my career choice. And one way that I got there, I had to go to college. And I started out by getting a bachelor's in general biology from the University of New Orleans, which is in New Orleans in Louisiana. And I originally wanted to go to a school that had a marine biology master's, or excuse me, a marine biology as a major. But the University of New Orleans offered me a full ride scholarship because I got pretty good grades in high school. And so I ended up accepting it because, to be honest with you guys, I would give you some life advice. And if you can avoid student debt, by all means, avoid it, because it's extremely important to at least try to hopefully get some form of your college paid for if you're going to go. There's a lot of student debt issues right now, and you know, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble down the line if you end up being able to get a scholarship. And by doing that, one way is getting good grades. So I was really fortunate to have gotten to go to college for free. And when I finished, I knew that San Diego in California was one of the main cities in the United States and in the world for being famous for marine biology. And so I looked into graduate schools, which graduate programs we would call doing a master's degree. I looked into master's programs out there, and I was accepted at the University of San Diego for a master's in marine science program. So in 2011, I moved out there to start my master's degree. And they asked, when you do a master's, you take some courses through school, and then you also have a thesis. And a thesis is a big, huge, very complicated science project rolled into one, where you go and collect data, and then you analyze it, and then you write up your results and make graphs and put it together in a book, which is called a thesis. And your topic is individual to each student in the class. And I told the people at school that I would like to work on a marine mammal project. It could be anything. I said I was willing to do anything involving marine mammals, as long as I could just get my foot in the door. I'd never worked with a marine mammal before. That's all I wanted. So they came back and said, hey, we have a marine mammal project for you for your master's. It's on California sea lions. And I said, woo, like, this is fantastic. I can't wait. Sign me up. And they said it was based at NOAA, which is a lab in San Diego. It's part of the federal government. It's a very, very well-renowned lab. It stands for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. And they have several branches around the United States. Excuse me. Excuse me. So they do a lot with fisheries and marine mammal abundance estimates, a lot of oceanographic data, atmospheric weather stuff, all sorts of stuff. So I knew that I would be going off campus to work at that lab to do my project and work with a lot of really big name scientists. And I was super excited. And when I got there, I realized that my project was on sea lion diet, which I had to analyze everything sea lions ate for a whole year. And if you can imagine how that happens, you have to dig through their poop, unfortunately. So I had a very, very dirty, smelly master's thesis, and it required me to pick out individual tiny fish bones and parts of squid and octopus that had gone through the digestive system. And then I had to look at them under a microscope and identify it to the species of what fish it had eaten, and then measure it. And in the end, I recreated all of the stuff and body weight of what all the sea lion ate, right? So I spent maybe 9 days collecting data outside over the course of all this time, and 3 years pretty much I spent microscoping all of these little fish bones. And I grew to learn that I didn't really like microscope work or working in a lab indoors all the time. And I had asked a few scientists, for advice for what to do next. And one scientist asked me, well, what do you want to do for your career? And I said, I'd like to work in cetacean research. And he said, well, I think you should go get your PhD, because you don't have any backgrounds in cetaceans for your master's now. You've worked on sea lion diet. And if you want to be able to develop your own projects and be a strong scientist and lead and eventually be a professor at a university, you need a PhD. And I said, okay, that sounds good. And he also recommended that I go and volunteer in as many different cetacean research projects that I could get my hands on, just so that I could have some experience in the field. So the first thing that I did was volunteer to go out to sea for a full month on a boat with NOAA. They went on a research cruise, which means you get on a big scientific research vessel and you go and do a specific project out at sea. And this one was monitoring all the different species of cetaceans that they could find off the coast of California, Oregon, and Washington for a whole month. And we were about 300 miles off the coast of the west coast of the United States. And we encountered all different types of whales and dolphins and porpoises out there. And it was the first time I actually had a hands-on experience working in cetacean research. And what they were doing was practicing a method of abundance estimation that I mentioned earlier, which allows us to get these population estimates that you hear reported in the statistics. So the main gist of it is that you put visual observers that stand on the front of the boat, and they scan with big binoculars, and they look at the water for the ocean surface and are trying to spot your cetaceans. And then off the back of the boat, they tow a big giant hydrophone, which is an underwater recording microphone. They tow it off the back, and they can pick up all the different cetaceans vocalizing in the area. And so from that, you can piece it together and actually identify what species are there and how many for a given area. So I was really fascinated by this. And when I was finished, I ended up finding a project in Indonesia that I volunteered for as an intern. And I went out to Indonesia for about a month and volunteered on a similar type of study, but it was on a much, much smaller scale. It was only 2 scientists and 3 interns, and we were working out of a rickety little tiny wooden boat. And we were doing the same method where we were driving around the ocean, visiting all these islands and looking for cetaceans and writing down where they were. And I thought, this is incredible. Like, we can do this at such a large scale on the NOAA standards off California. And then I'm seeing the same thing here in this tiny boat on a random island in Indonesia. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I thought, I'd like to do my PhD in something like this. And so when I got back, I looked online for job postings, and I ended up finding a job position online on a marine mammal website. It's called MarMam. It's short for marine mammal, and it's an email server, and people can upload internships and jobs and any new publications of science papers they've written, and it gets distributed to thousands of people who are interested in marine mammals. And I found a posting for a research group in South Africa, in Cape Town, and they're a nonprofit research group called Search. And they were looking for actually a master's student to come, but I wrote them and said, hey, any chance, you have a PhD project? This is what I'm interested in. And they actually wrote back and said, yes, we have a bunch of abundance survey data with acoustics as well from the country of Namibia, which is just one country to the west of South Africa. And we want to study dolphin abundance off of Namibia. And I said, okay, sure, that sounds great. And but they said first, well, we don't have funding for you at the moment. You need to apply for grants, but we'll help you. And so I took a year off after grad school to apply and write grants. And I put in 7 different grants. You'll hear me talk about grants through this talk because for researchers, especially in marine mammal work, grants are kind of the livelihood of what keeps projects funded and running, and any research in general, you have to apply and they're quite competitive, but the rule of thumb is if you put in enough, you eventually will get one, right? And if you're eligible and if you can hone the skills for writing, you'll end up getting a lot of them. And so they helped me through, my supervisors helped me through writing these grants, and I ended up getting 3 of them out of 7. And I was awarded a Fulbright U.S. Scholar and a National Geographic Emerging Explorers Grant and a full ride for my university in South Africa to do my PhD. So those 3 together had enough money to pay for my whole 3-year PhD in Africa. And so I said, okay, well, I guess I have to move to Africa now. So I picked up and I moved, and I spent the next 3 years living and working in the country of Namibia, which is this beautiful Southern African country. And it's actually a global hotspot for cetaceans. They call it a global hotspot because over 33 different species of cetaceans have been seen in Namibian waters. And there's around 90 species of cetaceans total. So that's over a third of species on planet Earth can be found off of Namibia. So it's a great place to work. And the only people that study cetaceans in the entire country are my PhD supervisors. And they started a nonprofit group there called the Namibian Dolphin Project. So for those 3 years, I was working as part of the Namibian Dolphin Project. And it was a really small group of researchers, usually 2 scientists and maybe a handful of interns. And because of that, I had the opportunity to go out and help all the other team members with their projects along with my PhD project. And so we did things like I learned photo ID of bottlenose dolphins. That's where they take pictures of their dorsal fins and can identify each individual in a population. I also helped with biopsies where you shoot a little tiny dart at the side of a cetacean and just take a very small skin and blubber sample, and it doesn't hurt the animal at all. And you can use that for all kinds of different genetics studies and learning about different sorts of genetics of the African cetacean species. But the most, I think probably my favorite part of getting to be out there and working with the other people was that we had, I got to partake in a lot of strandings. A stranding is when a cetacean washes up on the beach, and the majority of time they're dead, unfortunately, or very sick. And since Namibia is such a hot spot for cetaceans, there's naturally a lot of them in the water swimming around, and occasionally one of them will die, and a lot of it's usually of natural causes, and they'll wash up on the shore. And it was our job to go and take samples and measurements of these animals, and also to try to help determine how they died. And so, and of course, if they were alive and healthy, we would also try to put them back in the water too. So by being able to participate in a lot of strandings, I really fell in love with working hands-on with these animals. And I knew that I preferred to continue doing this type of work versus working in a typical lab setting, doing microscope stuff, you know, like I'd typically done previously for my master's research. So I finished my PhD in March last year, March 2019. And I officially had to become a grown-up and figure out what I wanted to do next. And I had a dream of going to Denmark to work with a pioneer scientist and a professor. His name is Magnus Wahlberg. He has his own lab in Denmark at the University of Southern Denmark. And he works in echolocation for cetaceans and also hearing in marine mammals underwater and all sorts of acoustics. And he's actually a wonderful person to study from. And I wrote to him and asked, would it be possible if I could come train under you for your job, and kind of be, look over your shoulder and watch you work for a few months? And he said, yeah, but suggested we write a couple grants to see if I could get funded to go and live in Denmark. Grants again. And sure enough, I was awarded 2 grants to go and live and work in Denmark for 6 months. And so I went there in March last year until the end of July and helped him with some projects there. And then while I was there, Magnus, my supervisor, we came up with this idea for me to go to Patagonia and work in southern Argentina to go do a similar thing that I did for my PhD and record 2 species of dolphins, really rare little dolphins off of Patagonia. And so they're actually the sister species of the 2 species that I wrote my PhD on. And so here they are, pictures of them. The top one is called a Peel's dolphin, and the bottom, the little black and white one, is a Commerson's dolphin, which would be the one that was going to be shown in the drone footage clip. So maybe we'll see that in a little while. But these little black and white ones, they're only up to 100 pounds. They're itty bitty. And then another picture in this slide is you can see one of the hydrophones that we were using. It's called a sound trap. And then there's the picture of the drone that we were flying at the same time. So from December and January, I spent Christmas and all of January down in Argentina with my friend who's a drone pilot and a research assistant. And together, she flew the drone and I used the hydrophone, and we recorded dolphins off the front of a boat. Yep, here's a good one if you want to watch that one. These are Commerson's dolphins.
And we'll try and get that working one more time.
Okay, no worries. Do you want me to wait or should we keep going?
Let's see. Let me see if we can get this working again. It seems to be my my not so expert analysis of what's going on. I think YouTube is having a lot of hiccups. So if people are out there watching our live streams, I'm noticing that YouTube is dropping off quite a bit. And I'm noticing that the videos that I have that are from YouTube, I do not have access to. So Morgan, I'm going to go ahead and put this slide back up, and I'm going to try to advance and see if we can get the next drone video to play.
Okay.
And it looks like no. So.
Okay. Well, we can try again maybe at the end and see if we can.
Absolutely.
If not, maybe I can share my screen and do it from here.
Absolutely. See if you can do it from here. And but we can continue to talk about how some of that work brought you elsewhere.
Sure. Okay. So part of working down in Argentina, it's one of the easiest ways to get to Antarctica. So while I was down there, I spent the month of February working off of a boat in Antarctica. I got hired to be the acoustics workshop leader, actually on a very small cruise ship. And I taught people how real life wildlife acoustics researchers conduct science. And each day we went on land, and I taught them how I would record particularly different species of penguins. I worked on 3 different species of penguins down there, and also elephant seals. And then we brought the hydrophones with us and recorded whales whenever we had them in the area as well. So basically, I just showed people all the different types of equipment and software that I use to measure sound from animals and how I can apply it to, and the techniques to different species, and also how to measure noise underwater and things like that. And that has really broadened me, my ability to be able to, having a background in acoustics, has really opened up all these different avenues for me now, especially since noise pollution is such a hot topic. So the next thing I'll do, I've accepted a postdoctoral researcher position starting in June in Canada. And a postdoc, for short, what we call it, it's usually the next step you take when you finish your PhD if you want to continue on to be a professor. And it's kind of the middle ground in between, where you do a little bit of teaching, but you also have your own research project, and you build it and write a bunch of papers and show that you can stand alone on your own as a scientist. And so I'll begin a postdoc position, and it's going to be in Canada, tagging bowhead whales, which are the oldest mammal on Earth. They get up to be over 200 years old. And we are putting acoustic suction cup tags on them they have hydrophones built in on them. And we're going to measure how bowheads react to shipping noise underwater, to noise pollution. So we're also using drones for that as well, to fly over that to help record their body movements as well as the tags. And we're going to put together a big study of noise pollution effects on bowhead whales in the Arctic. So that'll be my next venture if COVID decides to drop off. Fingers crossed. And yeah, so I've been really fortunate to have worked in a lot of wonderful, beautiful places. My passion has taken me all over the world, as you can see, and I've gotten to see some pretty cool things. So yeah, I don't know if Casey, you want to try it? Or should I?
So Akila, I'm going to bounce to you. We're going to go to some questions.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. That was great. So we have a ton of questions coming in from our viewers today. So let's take a few minutes to answer those.
All right.
What questions do we have?
So Morgan, I'm going to see if you can multitask. If you can attempt to bring the videos up, if you have them on your computer and they're not affiliated with YouTube, you can definitely share your screen for that. Okay. But in the meantime, we're going to throw some questions at you. We have a lot coming in. So first, Hannah wants to know, you mentioned that different sounds could help you figure out what cetaceans were using certain areas for. Could you give an example of that?
Sure. Okay. It'll be helpful if I can play the drone video for you. So you can actually hear a dolphin and a bat when they echolocate right before they go to catch a prey item, say a fish for dolphins. They emit echolocation clicks really, really fast as they approach it, just so that they get that sonar feedback, so that it's called a buzz. So it sounds like zzz, and it's we call it a buzz, and bats do it as well when they're catching moths and different types of insects. And so you can pick out a buzz. It's a very, very noticeable sound that you can find, and that's usually a signature of them hunting. And another sound dolphins make, a very common sound they use when they're communicating with one another. It's called a burst pulse. And a burst pulse is basically a series of echolocation clicks that they emit extremely fast, like 600 clicks per second. And they package them into little patterns, and they spurt them out like in a burst pulse. So those are also really easily identifiable too. So you can identify communication sounds by just the presence of burst pulses in your recordings. So stuff like that.
Excellent. And Morgan, while you try and get those videos up, I'm going to answer a question from Teresa, and you can maybe add on to it. But Teresa asked, does EarthEcho or any other programs that you know of personally offer teens internships for students interested in cetaceans or other marine animals? Now, I can definitely answer the EarthEcho portion of that. So EarthEcho International does work with young leaders all over the world, just like Miss Akila, who is here, and she can definitely tell you more about the work she does. We don't offer internships that would get you out, say, on a boat with a marine mammal scientist, just like Dr. Morgan, but we do offer some other activities and things that you can do basically virtually. And Akila, do you want to add on to that a little bit more about who the Youth Leadership Council is?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually going to start off with how I got involved with EarthEcho, which is through their Water Challenge Ambassador program. And I live in Phoenix, Arizona. So the thought of let's just say my parents were really surprised when a water testing kit came home and we had to search for water bodies near us. And the closest one was about like 10 or 15 miles away, but we still went. But yeah, having the opportunity to get involved with water when I have geographically not been positioned to experience it has been really amazing. And that's something that I can attest to, that EarthEcho has done, like that's like opened so many avenues for me. I fell in love with water, I fell in love with the sea. And yeah, that led me to apply to the Youth Leadership Council, which has been amazing. Last August, I got to meet everyone not virtually, physically at a conference we had, which hopefully we can do this year too. And everyone's been so kind, and that being in that position in and of itself has opened so many doors and can lead to other internships in the future. So if you know of any teens who are interested in conservation or even art or just passionate about protecting and saving, I would definitely encourage them to apply to the council and the Water Challenge Ambassador program. It's been awesome.
And Morgan did mention another resource that she stumbled upon some people through, and it's called Marmam. So Morgan, I'll let you take that up and see if you can share those videos as well.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I joined this email server. It's been around for years and it has grown in the last, I think I joined 10 years ago. And it is unbelievable. I probably get 4 to 5 emails from them a day now. New publications that are out. It's all marine mammals, and you won't get any spam. It's just all sorts of internships, job vacancies, people looking to collaborate on research in different areas of the world. There's a lot of species that can be found in different countries, and so people have their teams in each individual country, and it's becoming a lot more common for us to collaborate across countries now internationally, since the world is getting smaller virtually. It's becoming a pretty common thing. So there's all sorts of international opportunities on there, as well as local things in the US. There's a lot of American postings as well. And also, just if you like to read, getting your eye and mind into reading science papers is really helpful if you want to become a scientist. It's something I wish I started earlier. And I just keep up on the literature by checking through my emails every day and see what papers are out. And oh, wow, that's a cool new method technique they've used, or a piece of equipment that they've used for this species that, I never thought about. And it's just a really good thing. I think it's marmam.org. I think it's .org, but it's marmam.org, I believe. So, and you can sign up, it's free, and you just give them your email address and you'll start subscribing to their emails every day. So let's see if I can share.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And while you're sharing that, and I'll stop talking if you do get it up, but Marky asked a similar question of finding volunteer opportunities to add to your college resume as a teen. Now, one thing I can add on, Marmam, I was on that listserv years and years ago as well, and it is a great resource. Another great resource, look into your community. I'm not sure, Marky, where you're located, but if you go to aza.org, that is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, that is a wonderful resource to find zoos and aquariums and other affiliations right in your own backyard. And a lot of zoos and aquariums and even local science centers and museums have opportunities for students, for teens, before they enter into college. And I would highly recommend looking at those opportunities, see what kind of programs that they might have for you, volunteer opportunities. And we did also mention what Aquila is part of, which is the Youth Leadership Council and the Water Challenge Ambassadors here at EarthEcho International. And what we do is virtual, which is really cool, especially since we are in the year of 2020. So Morgan, were you able to get those videos to play?
Yes, let me,
awesome.
I can get this for you. So
perfect. So just share your screen through Zoom, and you should be able to select that video. You'll see it pop up as an option.
Okay. Let me just do this, and don't mind my screen here.
And again, everyone tuning in, thank you so much. We're excited. Thank you for hanging tight with us. There are a lot of people online, so we're trying to work through some technical glitches that we are experiencing. So just hang tight, and we are asking questions of Morgan, and I know she's going to roll out with some words of wisdom as well. So we'll get to everything that we can.
It said host disabled sharing screen. Participate. We've got this, don't worry.
Here we go. See if that works.
Okay. Aha. All right. Share. And then we'll go big.
Perfect.
These are cormorant dolphins, just 3 of them, I think. So another thing that we're going to start doing is using AI and computer vision to start mapping their body movements. This is a good video to show because you could see them twisting and turning back and forth in front of the boat really quickly. And that's one of the things that we're starting to get a little bit closer with. Let's see, pause this one. And this video is, oh, go big, yeah. This is a big group of them, and this is the largest aggregation we've ever recorded. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
How many would you estimate are in that aggregation?
There's a little, I think around 100 is what we counted, so. I can try to play the one with the sound and see if it'll go. Should I try?
Good to me. Absolutely.
Okay, let's try it out.
And while you're waiting to get that up, Morgan, we do have a question. We have actually a lot of questions about how many different species of cetaceans are there, and are they different from one another? How much do they differ?
Oh, wow. Okay. So this kind of changes back and forth. It updates by different subspecies if new ones are genetically classified or not. The last check, I looked actually this morning because I thought I might get this question, and it's not, around 90 species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises. There's around 40 different species of dolphins, and they differ massively. You've got your smallest dolphin, which would be the vaquita, and also the commersons, which are basically around 5 feet long and 100 pounds, up to the blue whale, which is almost 100 feet long and 100 tons. So that's bigger than a school bus. So as you can see, like, they cross the spectrum, and they're all a lot of different colors as well. These are an extreme one. Commersons are these bright black and white ones. A lot of different shades of gray. Blue whale is a bluish color. A lot of black and white and gray mixture coloration patterns. They change. They're really, really unique looking. Each one is different. So, okay, should I try to play you this one? Okay, so this has the sound overlapped with the drone footage of the hydrophone from underwater. And since these animals are ultrasonic, I actually folded the sound down with a little trick we can do as acousticians so that human ears can actually hear it. So you'll hear the dolphins buzzing as they pass by the boat. A lot of times they'll buzz at the boat because they're trying to figure out what we are. So you'll hear them zooming by. Yeah, so hopefully you get a little bit more of that. So, okay, I think
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's take one more question before we go into kind of the last portion to wrap things up. We have Audrey and Ansley, both on YouTube, and they are both asking, what has inspired you to do your work? What continues to inspire you?
Oh, sure. Okay. I think a general love of working on the ocean and being with these animals. There is never a bad day, and I think you can ask people across the board that work with marine mammals, any day that you're actually working with them, there really is no bad day out there. It brings such a joy and like a pleasant feeling to the situation that it's really, really hard not to love your job. So for me, it's something I've always been passionate about, and working in conservation as a way to help preserve them for future generations, knowing that the work that I'm doing is helping contribute, I think keeps driving me behind it, and that's what I hope to keep doing. So.
All right, Akila, it's back to you.
Okay, cool. I also wanted to pop in with all the questions coming in with finding opportunities. One thing that's really helped me find opportunities here, especially in like ocean science and marine science, is just cold emailing professors too. A lot of them are a lot more willing to help you than you think, and there's no harm. The worst thing that happens is you don't get a response or they just say no, and usually a lot of them refer you to other people. So it's a great option, and I definitely recommend it. Okay, so next, let's talk about sustainability. So here at EarthEcho, we believe that we can act right now for a sustainable future. So can you tell us about how your work contributes to that?
Sure. A lot of my work thus far has been working to describe the sounds that different species of dolphins make on a daily basis. And I've worked a good bit in population abundance estimation for 2 species of rare dolphins off of Southern Africa, as I mentioned. And the area, I think it's pretty easy to explain how population estimates can be useful towards contributing to a sustainable future for these animals. The area that I was working in previously has no population estimates for either of those species. And my research provides population estimates for a part of the world that urgently needs to put in place laws for ocean management and overfishing. So to that end, population estimates that I was on a team to help create, they'll be used to compare estimates of dolphin populations in the same region for many years to come. And it's one way to that we can monitor the health of the population in that area over time. So that's one thing. And then I'd say regarding the way that I study dolphin sounds that they use on a daily basis, that ties into not only better understanding animal behavior in a highly intelligent species, but it provides true measurements of the frequency ranges that each dolphin species uses underwater for echolocation and communication. Our planet, as I mentioned, currently has a really big issue with underwater noise pollution in the ocean from shipping, seismic surveys, Navy, whatnot, you name it. And each marine mammal species is actually unique in the frequencies that it uses to communicate with one another. So therefore, each species actually needs to be studied independently in order to learn what the frequency ranges they are that are used by them, and also how this noise pollution is affecting them or possibly harming them. So once we study them and figure out the frequency ranges that they're using, we can feed that back to the people who are in charge of ocean management, the policymakers and the stakeholders who are responsible for putting ocean laws into action. And basically that's how these noise pollution mitigation laws become into law and keep these animals from harm. So
Yeah, that's great. So do you have any words of advice for students out there, college and high school?
Yes, of course. I think growing up in the Midwest in America, I was really unaware of many things about the ocean or how to get involved in marine science related jobs. A lot of the research that I did was on my own or through our local library and video store. This is pre, cool opportunities like STEMExplore, and I wish that I would have had a marine related mentor during high school or a better way to learn about marine science and oceanography. I guess it could be really summed up as, I wish there was more of an emphasis on the importance of ocean studies and conservation during my high school experience. And regarding advice to students out there who would like to follow a similar career path or are simply interested in marine science or cetacean related studies, I would do some research and look into the people on the faculty or the staff at your proposed universities, just like she mentioned earlier. Look at your high schools or universities you're interested in or the local places you live. There likely is somebody who's worked in a marine science related field somewhere around, and send them a message and just be persistent, but in a polite way. If they don't answer you right away, there's no harm in emailing someone a second or a third time if they don't write you back. And as long as you're approaching it in a polite way, don't give up if you just don't get an answer right away. Scientists are typically really busy people, and it's necessary to get a meeting with them. You might have to just remind them a couple times, but it's actually, I think it's really, really important to navigate and talk to these people. I mean, I can look back at each step of my career path and identify a person or multiple people that are responsible for me reaching out and speaking to them that put me on the next step of my career path. And I don't think, that's the motto of what I have on the screen is, if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? So you have to be determined in this field, and you've got to be a little bit outgoing. And in doing so, if you contact people and reach out to them, all of us used to be just right in your shoes where you are today. We were all students at one point. And from most of the people that I've experienced, everyone will try to help you along the way. So if you just ask, we're here to help, and we all understand how important it is to build these connections with young people, because it's actually building toward a positive future career of scientists. So it's helping us in the long run and helping conservation in the long run. So don't be afraid, just get out there, and I wish you guys all good luck. I think if you put your mind to it, you can do anything.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to end on some more questions. Morgan, we have so many questions coming in from YouTube and from our chat spaces. So I'm going to try and throw some out there. So let's see here. Let me just sift through these. Oh, this is great. One of Ms. Kristen, one of her students asked, how long did you spend on any of your trips in extreme weather?
Oh, okay. Oh gosh. Well, I think Antarctica was a whole month in extreme weather because it was frozen everywhere and very windy sometimes. And we had a lot of really big storms on the ocean on the boat. So I'd say probably a month. Yeah, everywhere I've lived, I've been fortunate to have had a nice shelter to stay in. So it's not like I've been camping out in these places for most of it. So yeah, let's say about a month.
Awesome. And then Mickey asks, what is a good source of information on writing successful grants? And can they do that as a high school student interested in doing work such as yours? So how would they get practice on that? That's a great question.
Gosh, yeah. I started in the same place. I Googled how to write grants, and there are a load of websites with really good, it depends. So if you're in STEM, you can just simply type in how to write a biology proposal or how to write a grant proposal for mathematics. And you will find individual ones and examples of people's that they've posted their own that you can look off of for advice. And also, I would always recommend having at least one or two people read over your proposal to critique it and give you advice and to look for grammatical errors and stuff before you submit it. So I almost always send mine to somebody else for a fresh pair of eyes. That's what we call it, to look over it. And certainly there are grants for everything. There's even grants for left-handed people. There's a grant for you name it. And I've gone for quite a few of them. And and some of them are really easy applications where you simply write one paragraph essay. A lot of them are 50 pages long. It depends on how much money you want to ask for and how detailed you want to be. So of course you can write one in high school, and you can certainly look for them for getting into college as well. There's a lot of grant funding for undergraduate students just going in to start college to help pay for tuition. So
awesome. And Ansley wants to know, what is your favorite species of dolphin?
Oh man, I am gonna have to switch, and I used to be a Heavisides fan. That was what I did my PhD on, but it's Commerson's now. After Patagonia, I love Commerson's dolphins. So, yeah.
You've done some pretty amazing work with them.
They're super cool. They're beautiful. And I also love narwhals. The ones with the tooth, the big tusk coming out, those are in the Arctic, but those are whales. So
that is lovely. Well, we want to thank Morgan so much for joining us today. This was truly lovely. thanks to all of you out there who have been so interested in interacting. And especially, Morgan, we want to thank you and everyone out there for joining us during these times that are so unnatural and not normal. So we definitely thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And I know Akila is having some technical issues out in Phoenix. So I know she did want to ask you, Morgan. She always likes to find a bright light in anything that she's doing. So while everybody's been connecting virtually, Akila wants to know what is bringing you joy these days?
That's that's a sweet question. I am actually home at the moment in my hometown. I'm back in Springfield, Illinois because of the COVID thing. So I'm back with my family. And as you may have noticed, I haven't been home much in the last 4 years. So that's bringing me joy. I'm happy to be home for a little while.
Awesome. That's great. And everybody, of course, with this slide, you can stay in touch with Morgan, follow along on her adventures and her professional career. She was nice enough to send us her email address, and please definitely take that advice that Morgan and Akila gave you all of reach out to someone. Do not be afraid. And it's always a pleasure. And of course, we want to thank our sponsor, Raytheon Technologies, for their support of women in STEM. We do want to remind everyone that EarthEcho International has so many resources on our website. Visit earthecho.org. We have a brand new program, the Our Echo Challenge, and the deadline to submit your entry to change the world is in 1 week, April 21st. So please visit earthecho.org to learn more about the Our Echo Challenge and all the wonderful programming that we do. Follow us on social media and just stay tuned to all of the great events that we're posting out there. Stay tuned to wonderful mentors like Morgan. And again, Morgan, thank you so much for joining us in this time. And thanks to all of you out there. Please stay safe and healthy. And from all of us at EarthEcho International, keep exploring, everyone. Bye-bye.